Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So I went through some of the Rav's lectures for this portion over the last, probably about 15 years ago. Mind-blowing stuff. You could talk for 5 hours about it. The first thing the Rav said in this lecture is that today's portion is about a family coming together after being separated by time and space. And if you look at the other commentators throughout history, they addressed the first line of this week's portion about Yehuda coming close to his brother Yosef, to Joseph. But no one ever really mentions the idea of time and space, except for the Rav. And what's interesting in the Zohar is that right after the Zohar addresses that first verse, that Yehuda comes close, draws near to his brother Yosef, the Zohar suddenly segues into a whole discourse on the Hebrew alphabet and how the letters of the alphabet were the instruments of creation, specifically the letter Bet. And the Zohar makes note that the letter Bet, which begins the Torah from the word Bereshit, the letter Bet is the letter that initiated the creation of our physical reality, the Malchut, symbolized by Yehuda. Yehuda is the Malchut. And the Zohar says, we all heard this before, why the letter Bet? Because the letter Bet comes from the word bracha, which means blessings. Where are the blessings? We've lived in a world of child molestation, rape, murder, burglary, financial poverty, famine. Where's the blessing? This is a world created with blessings. So it begs the question, what's the Zohar trying to tell us? Where are the blessings? What's the story about Yehuda drawing close to Yosef? And why is the Rav mentioning that they were separated by time and space? What are we to learn? We know all the commentators. I looked at a lot of commentators, a lot of great Kabbalists throughout history, and they all mention the same thing, that Yehuda is the physical reality, the Malchut, the 1%, and Joseph represents Zeran Pin, Yesod, the 99% in reality, and the inner secret is, wow, Yehuda going close to Joseph is the physical world reconnecting to the spiritual world, the 1% connecting to the 99%, and therefore light flows into our lives. So that's been a common theme if you study Kabbalah. Not if you go to traditional biblical study, you'll never make heads or tails of the story, but the Kabbalists are, all explain, and the Zohar explains. That's really what's going on. But the question the Rav always raises, why was there a separation to begin with? Okay, yes, it's a really cool insight. Yehuda drawing close to Joseph is our world drawing close to the spiritual world, to the source, of blessings. But why was there a separation? And even more important, what are the consequences of a separation? And it's only Rav Ashlag, Rabbi Brownwine, the Rav, who truly brought the answers down to the level of people like you and me. Regular, normal people who are not scholars, who are not full-time students in a religious school or biblical studies, just regular people looking for answers, looking for connection, looking for meaning in our lives. And so the answer, first we'll discuss what are the consequences. First let's discuss why there was a separation. And Rabbi Ashlag says, and we heard it before, I presume, but we need to hear it over and over again, I know I do, that the reason there is separation in the world is because of the law of repulsion. Not the law of attraction. The law of repulsion, which says, according to Rabbi Ashlag, the more two spiritual entities are different, the further apart they are. The greater the distance, the greater the space. Well, if you look at the 99% reality, the realm of Joseph, Zeran Pin, it's a world of endless, infinite giving of blessings. If you look at our world, it's a world of taking, receiving, wanting, desiring those blessings. It's polar opposites. Sharing, receiving, the giving of blessing, the receiving of blessing. And because they're polar opposites, we find ourselves in a world opposite the 99% reality. Now, what does that mean? It means if the light sends forth a kiss, what's the opposite of a kiss? A sock in the jaw. We get a punch in the jaw. When the Kabbalists say there's no bad in the world, there is no bad. In true reality, there is no bad. We're just experiencing the opposite. So if the light only sends forth a blessing, if we're in a world of opposites, we now find ourselves receiving the opposite of a blessing. If the light is sending forth financial sustenance into your life, you're going to experience shortage of cash, financial difficulties. And we know that this whole world is an illusion because we're in a world of opposites. What put us there is our consciousness being the opposite of the 99% reality. So that's the consequence of separation. You're going to experience everything in the opposite. Now, in the parts of your life where there are genuine, true blessings, does that mean that, if you have financial prosperity, does that mean God's setting forth poverty? And no. It means in your particular life, you've already made that spiritual correction and transformation. So therefore, you're getting the true light of the Creator in that part of your life. It's not your tikkun to experience the opposite. You've changed your consciousness either past life or this life, or you've given the opportunity to change it, and that's why you're blessed with money. Or if you're blessed with health, or if you're blessed with wonderful children or a soulmate marriage, it means you've made a correction. And anywhere else in your life where there's chaos, it just means it's an illusion. You're experiencing the opposite. Listen carefully. Because that part of your consciousness, of your spiritual nature and character, of your essence, is still looking to receive. So it's opposite of the blessings. So I want to share a parable. It's well known. And I'm going to change it a little bit. For today, it's the story of a student who asked his teacher to show him the difference between heaven and hell. But we'll change it to the student asked the Kabbalist, because some people think this world is like hell. It is when you're in the opposite. The student asked the Kabbalist, please show me the difference between the 1% world of chaos and the world of when the Messiah arrives, that 99% reality on earth should be overflowing with unimaginable blessings. What's the difference? So he finds himself, the student, the Kabbalist transports him into a room where there are people sitting around a large table, and in the center of the table is a magnificent bowl of infinite blessings. Every blessing you can imagine, and far greater than we can ever imagine. Infinitely powerful. The problem is, the bowl is way in the center, the table is massive, so nobody can reach. So they've been given these long-handled spoons that have been handcuffed to their hand, and they can dip the spoon into the bowl of blessings, but they can't turn it around into their mouths, and that is hell. So close to the blessings, so close, but we can't have it. That is the 1% reality. Now the student says, show me the world of the Messiah, when the world is going to have infinite, endless pleasure and immortal existence. The student is stunned because he's in the same room. Nothing has changed, except everybody at that table is literally in ecstasy, overflowing with rapture and joy and bliss. And then the student notices, instead of trying to take the spoon with the blessings and shove it in their own mouth, each person turned to their right and fed their neighbor. The world of blessings is here right now. Nothing changes. What has to change is our consciousness. When we transform our consciousness, then we go from a world of hell into a world of paradise. You see, we didn't come to this physical reality to make our dreams come true. We didn't come to this physical reality to receive blessings. We came here to make other people's dreams come true. We came here to become a blessing for other people. And then you'll have 6 billion people in the world working day and night to make your dreams come true and to become a blessing in your life. It's a shift of consciousness. The real problem with that parable of the people seated at that table was not that they couldn't get the spoons into their mouths. The real lesson, according to the Rav, is that there was space between each of the individuals at the table. When they took their spoons, tilted it to the right, and fed the other, there was now no more space. The ring around that table was one unified circle. So the whole purpose of Kabbalah is to remove that space. What's the solution? If the letter Bet in the Torah is the instrument we find to create this physical reality of blessing, if you go to the next letter in the Torah, and everybody know what letter that is? Resh. In Bereshit comes the letter Resh. It spells the word bar, as in Shimon bar Yochai. The word bar, according to the Kabbalist Abraham Abulafia, means son. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Shimon the son of Yochai. Each of us came here to become a son. And a good son, a smart son, is somebody who goes into his father's business. And we came to this world to go into our father's business. And what's our father do? He's the bestower of blessings. Instead of us coming to this world, I want a blessing from the center. I want a blessing from the Zohar. I want a blessing from the prayer. I want to receive from... No, we came to be the bestowers of blessing because that's the business our Father is in. He just shares. Every time we just take, we create more distance, more separation between ourselves and the light of the Creator. Every time we share, we remove that space. And then true blessings flow into our lives automatically. The Rav said 15 years ago, the power of this portion is that every time you effect a unification between the 1% and 99%, all the space that we created in our lives, from all of our negative actions of taking, of wanting and desiring, all those spaces and gaps disappear. All the so-called sins that we've committed are completely cleansed and purified. It says in the Torah, when Yehuda came to Joseph, Joseph could no longer contain himself. He had to identify himself. I am Joseph, your brother. The Rav said that means that when we truly transform, the 99% can't contain itself. And it explodes open with light and blessings into our lives, just waiting to fulfill us. That's the true meaning of what's taking place here. And by listening to the reading today, we open up those gates, provided the Rav says, we open up the gate within ourselves. What gate? The Rav says there's one gate we need to open. It's the gate of accountability. I am responsible for the chaos in my life. And it's not in any way, shape, or form an intellectual decision. Okay, today I'm going to choose to be accountable. Because as soon as something rotten goes wrong, we're pointing the finger again. Some of us can attain accountability maybe 30%, sometimes 50%. But the Rebbe was saying, but we always have to say, but, and maybe I'm a little right. And we can never truly let go because it's not an intellectual decision. It is a state of consciousness. And the Rav said it, the only way we're going to get there is through the reading of the Torah. The Rav says in the same sentence, the only way we're going to get there is through the Zohar. And that the entire world must embrace the Zohar and understand the true meaning of the Bible, what's really taking place, in order to get to that world of blessings through mercy as opposed to pain and suffering. The Rav said in that lecture, the world is going to hate the Israelites until we bring that Zohar to the entire world. This is the metaphysical cause of all hatred, all conflict, all pain and suffering. And the world knows it on a subconscious level. So until we bring that Zohar, the ultimate blessing, to the rest of the world, and what does that mean? Yes, it means the physical distribution, sharing of Zohar, but it also means each of us becoming a living example of the Zohar, walking, living, breathing the teachings of the Zohar, which is accountability. So if each of us today can find an area in our life where we're just not being accountable, some chaos, some problem, some situation, some person who really aggravated us and hurt us, and we can't let it go, you don't have to let it go intellectually. Just identify it, and the Torah will do the rest. All we have to do every Shabbat is bring consciousness to the table. The Torah on this table does the rest. It will cleanse everything you identify, everything you're struggling with. The Rav said it took the brothers 17 years of pain and suffering before they finally realized they did something wrong by selling their brother Joseph. And finally, when Yehuda went to Joseph to make amends, to fix the situation, then Joseph revealed himself. If you read the Torah, Yehuda thought he was going to be meeting the viceroy of Egypt. He thought he was going to be meeting a very powerful, dark, and evil person. It turned out it was his brother Joseph. When we become accountable for our chaos, without saying, yeah, but, completely accountable, even our enemies will turn out to become our friends. Problems will turn out to become blessings. And one of the Kabbalists, I forget who it was, who wrote the Or Chaim? Who was it? Anyone know? I don't know who it is, I forget. I think Rabbi Horowitz, I'm not sure, don't quote me. But the commentator says that when Jacob, Joseph's father, when Yaakov went into Egypt, the light sent the cure before the disease. What does that mean? When Jacob descended into Egypt, that planted the seed for the generation of Moses and the 600,000 Israelites to achieve redemption and freedom out of Egypt. What does that mean? Jacob is central column. What's central column? Resistance. I'm going to resist. I'm going to restrict my ego. That's Jacob. That's it. That's all we came here to do. Restrict the ego. This is why when you read the Torah, you actually open up this scroll so that 3 columns are present. Because this is the path of the 3-column system. Right, which is sharing. Left, which is receiving. And the central column, resist my desire of the left, my selfishness. Resist it, shut it down, and share instead. When we do that, we escape the bondage of our inner Egypt, which is the body, the human ego. The body is the essence of desire to receive. If you receive for yourself, that's called, as Rabbi Ashlag says, and the Rav says, desire to receive for the self alone. But when you take that same body whose consciousness is desire to share, and you make it into the right column, you take that spoon and you just feed the next person turning to your right, you're out of Egypt. And finally, the last point, Jacob didn't see his son Joseph, who was his favorite son, for 22 years. He thought his favorite, most beloved son was dead. Imagine what that's like. Your favorite child, you think he's dead. It's been 22 years. Then you find out miraculously he's alive and well. So Jacob was now going to rush to Egypt to see his beloved son. Except on the way, he stopped to chop down cedar trees. And the Rav always said, wow, what an act of restriction to help other people who are chopping down trees when you haven't seen your son, when you have every right to go be reunited with your loved one, to stop and help some men who are chopping down cedar trees. That action was so selfless, so profound, so transformational. The wood of those cedar trees is what was used to build the tabernacle generations later. That's how holy and imbued with sharing and love and care that action was. Which reminds me, I said this on his birthday, but it applies to the whole chevra. I said it about Eitan Yardeni, maybe about 10 years ago. Eitan always reminded me of Yaakov. He would do that for the Rav. The same way Yaakov was dedicated to the light and stopped and didn't think about himself and his own family, but to assist others. That's something Eitan would do. Today, seeing as the chevra aren't here, it's the entire chevra. People who've given up the physical, material pleasures to dedicate themselves, with all their faults, with all the same problems we all have, dedicate themselves to helping others. So today, let's have an appreciation for the chevra, the center, everything we get. And instead of saying, what blessings can I get? Let's grab the light for the purpose of becoming a blessing to somebody else. Shabbat Shalom.